Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jason Tatinger and I live in Longmont, Colorado. Um, I'm guessing if you've come here, you're either already a subscriber to my YouTube channel or you scanned a QR code either on an invitation or at the Great Frame Up in Longmont for the Longmont Artists Guild Winter Spring Show. So I have two paintings in the show, and I wanted to explain a little bit about their appearance. Even though a picture is worth a thousand words, and a painting should be worth much more than that. Even when I described it to some people, they didn't quite understand. So these two paintings that are at the Longmont Artists Guild were something in the back of my mind for a while. I moved back to Colorado in April of 2022, and I'd only been painting for in watercolor for a few months at that point in time. But this on screen right now is the uh, I call it milkshed and paddock. I'm not exactly sure what the shed is, but that and then the barn, which I'll flash forward to here. Um, so there's the actual photo, and then here's the barn in Niwot. So this barn, if you drive between Boulder and Longmont, you're going to see it. It's very, very large. I mean, it has its own elevator of some kind in it. It's a very large barn, and but the reason for painting both of these, I took a road trip to Montana in October, and just before I went on that road trip, there had been a fire a few months earlier at Heil Valley Ranch between Boulder and Lyons, and quite a bit of land was burned up. It's pretty thick smoke, and put a little bit of a blanket of smoke throughout the Front Range in this general area. I had friends asking how close I was, that since they knew I lived in Longmont, and I drove about a mile down the road to the airport and snapped a photo and sent it to them. They're like, "Oh wow, you're really close." So, but when I went to Montana, my mom lives in Billings. I was driving through near Sheridan. There's a museum called the Brinton Museum, and it's outside Bighorn, Wyoming. Great museum, and I highly recommend it if you're ever on that route. Again, it's the Brinton Museum. Great collection of art, permanent, and and then changing exhibits. But anyway, I was so in awe of the smoke as I was driving through, just seeing this thick blanket of smoke that was like putting the sun through a filter. So as I was driving through the smoke, everything was very orange and just very eerie. And then a few places where you could see normal daylight were just this vibrant blue. Now, I didn't try to capture that really in any of these paintings, but I wanted to show you the series. There are four from this, and I might do some others down the road. I took a lot of photos, and I did include a couple of those here. So again, there's the actual shed. I cropped it down a little bit, took out some windows, took out a section of this, and then moved the silo over a little bit closer. One of the things I do like, sorry for jumping around, is not so much on screen, but in real life, this looks very abstract. And when I first painted it, I wish I had included a photo of that. It just had the shed and this little covered area, and most of the rest of this was not rendered, and it looked very abstract. And so that's actually inspired another line of paintings, not including the ones that are behind me, but something future down the road. But so here's this one shows the most blue, and exaggerated the mountains a little bit in the background, and carried that over here. And and gave it. This one has a little bit more of a gritty feeling to it that I like to do sometimes with some of my work. And but then I want to move on to, there's the actual photo of the barn. Um, and rather than including the burrow and a lot of foreground, or rather than putting in a lot of water, I just really decided to tightly crop it, and it kind of went from being the focal point of a larger painting to just being the painting itself. Um, and then some of the smoke, or this is when I was in Billings. I went for a walk and I saw this barn with this old International Harvester truck out front. And this is still one of my favorites. This was one of the ones that first came to mind. I saw this picture and it was much more vibrantly lit. The smoke was pretty thick in Billings, but nothing like the upcoming photos. But I was really inspired by this truck. And then I thought of the barn in Niwot and the milkshed on 75th and Arapahoe. I was just like, oh, now I know what to do with those two. And then something that was fairly smoky was a grain elevator in Hardin. This is the town I grew up in. Lived there from 1975 to 1987, and the the smoke was fairly thick there. This little old covered wagon was actually over to the right a little bit, but it was actually in the photo. And then this is an homage to my grandfather. He I think he actually built the airport in Hardin, and he had a Stearman biplane that was one of his initial planes. He did crop dusting and charter service there, and now it's vacant now. I think it's just used for storage. The airport's now in a different area of town. But I was really inspired by this piece of um, architecture, just and really obscuring it in the background. And for some people, it's too obscure, and some people that's exactly what they like about it. And now I'll move on to the photos. Now, everybody that's got the QR code for this has probably experienced smoke of this degree, of this thickness. So here's the smoke just below the sun, and so there's a little band of blue there. The photo, doesn't do it justice to what your eye can see. If you're an artist, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then here's another photo, and I've photographed this area many times driving to and from Billings and Denver over the years. I love this water tower, and it's probably going to be in the series as well down the line. And I have a photo of a train coming through here that I've tried to paint in the past, but wasn't quite my developmental level wasn't quite there yet. And so this broad reaching of a landscape might be a little much. And yes, I do ramble on like this all the time. And then this photo really shows the density of the smoke. Now, was taken from afar, and then zoomed in and cropped. So there is a lot more smoke between the lens. This wasn't like it appears to be, maybe 100 yards away. This was probably a quarter mile away. So, but if you're not familiar, if you've never experienced a super, super dense choking smoke, this is what it looks like. And so that was the inspiration for these paintings. Through this destruction and hopefully no one was harmed, but through all this devastation of the land, it is a natural part of it, and it does have a beautiful side to it. So I really hope that my, again, long-winded explanation helps you understand the colors and the way I did these paintings. Some of it is very stylized to the way I like to paint, but some of it is also trying to represent the smoke, rust, ash, and dust that these buildings have probably been here for nearly 100 years, and we have to keep upkeeping them, and but eventually, there is rust and there's decay, and hopefully there's not any fire or smoke. So thank you for tuning in. Feel free to message me on Facebook Messenger through my Facebook account. It's Jason Bowles Taitinger yourself. So thank you for tuning in, and lovely to see you again, my friend.